Hi guys, it's Lauren and I'm here to show you a little seed starting. I've got a lot of the materials I need to start my seeds for the free seed demonstration garden, and I wanted to walk you through it. Now, this might look like a lot of stuff, but it's really just to demonstrate what kind of options you have. So let's get started with the kinds of things you can plant your seeds in. Yay, these are my seeds. I picked out which ones that I was going to plant, start, and then which ones I was going to direct sow. So we'll get back to that in a minute. But these are the different containers you could start your seeds in. You could use something that's reusable from when you bought something before, made out of plastic. Make sure you've got some drainage holes at the bottom. Same here. You got a bunch of these kinds of cups. You can use these trays made out of pressed paper or peat moss. You can use a good old-fashioned solo cup. I've drilled holes in the bottom so that they can drain. Another type of paper or peat moss cup come like this. Again, another hole. You can use these plastic 6-cell trays, and this is what I'm going to choose to use. With these 6-cell trays, you can use them just as they are, but I like to put them in a 10 by 20 tray that doesn't have holes in the bottom so that it can retain a little bit of water, a little bit of moisture at the bottom, which keeps these 6-cell trays moist, not too moist, while the seedlings are taking root. So those are most, and not some. So a little bit of a homemade approach too. Refrigerator dishes, great way to do that. If you're done with these or you got some to spare, you can use that. Make sure you got some holes in the bottom. And maybe a tray. A takeaway container. This conveniently too is made out of some nice and thick but absorbable paper at the bottom so that you can grow some seedlings in it. You can use the tray like this in order to catch any extra liquid that's going to come through. So yeah, those are your options. Let's go through a little bit of what I have here as the seed starting mix. I typically start my seeds with a mixture of the soil that I'm going to use, plus some additives that help improve drainage in the soil. And some of the common additives you probably see are perlite. Perlite looks like this. Peat moss. Again, this also is a nice additive to improve the water retention in soil, kind of like a mulch, like a very fine mulch. And it also improves the aeration in the soil just a little bit, not too much. And drainage looks like this. You can go with the seedling mix that's already prepared, and sometimes I do that and then add a few more of these things in it, but basically it's going to have some of that in it already. This seedling mix, make sure it's organic. I like that. You can see it has a little bit of the crushed perlite, and it's kind of fluffy, kind of arable, little friable, loose soil. So it's got a little bit of the peat moss in it. Another option, which is good if you're not going to use a seeding mix, I got this tip from my friend from my local garden center to use some Cactus or Succulent potting mix. It's also pretty loose, and it's got some crushed stone in it. I don't know if you can see that kind of clearly. That also helps to improve the drainage. And so the Cactus mix looks like that. What I'm going to use today, though, is some of the good old compost that I get from my local Napa Recycling and Waste Center. Compost is great. And in this bucket that I have here, here's my freshly turned compost that I got from that center. It smells great. It's got rich earth. It's got some nutrients in it, not too much for the seedlings because they just want to get started with their roots. And then I've mixed into this mixing container some of the peat moss and some of the vermiculite. And I'm just going to mix this up really quickly in order to get that same or similar composition that you'll see in potting mixes that you buy or in the containers that have seedlings already in them or plants already in them in your garden center. You know what it looks like, so it's not any more simple than turning together a Chex Mix or something like that. So there I go. It's pretty well mixed. It's a little dry right now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of water in order to dampen up the mix, just a tiny bit. I'm not sure how much of the soil that I have here. Let's get this way. But I'm just getting this soil, the seedling mix wet in order so that it can retain some water. And when you know that it's about the right consistency as far as how moist it is if I can hold some in my hand and crush it up, that it kind of sticks. And that's looking pretty good. You can see that when I squeeze it with my fist, no water is coming out between my fingers, but it's holding together a little bit. So that's the kind of dampness I want. The next thing I'm going to do is get my seedling tray and add the soil in the 6 cells that I have. I'm going to put them about halfway, all the way through. These 6 cell trays and this the drainage tray underneath were brand new. Thanks for the donation. One of our farmers market patrons came by and gave me those. So thanks for that donation. And using new or clean containers to start your seedlings is a good idea. Sometimes you don't always have the time. At least rinse it off with clean water. And sometimes you could get together like a 1% bleach solution. I don't typically do that. I just use some water and clean it up with some water. The reason why that can be helpful is there can be some, microbes, gnats, fungus, particularly fungus inside some of these older used trays. And you want to avoid the seedlings being damaged by any particular disease-causing microorganisms. Okay, so you can see I've kind of filled these 6 cell trays about half. It's pretty rough, just for purposes of demonstration. I would slow down a little if I was not taping this video, but for sake of time and to give you guys just a general idea, I'm just kind of doing a quick treatment there. So now for the seeds. I took some time earlier to look through the different types I have and to decide which ones were direct seed only. And that for me is turnip, radish, arugula, and carrot. Which ones, I'm going to skip that for a minute, are direct seed or transplants, dill and kale. I've had particularly good success with kale in my area in Zone 9B. It is hardy, so I can do that in either way, direct seed or transplant. I have had some good success with dill too, but I started it kind of later in the summer, so it died off by the time fall came and cool weather came. So I'm going to try both direct seeding the dill and transplanting the dill. I'm only going to transplant, meaning I'm going to start from seedlings and then transplant into the beds, the mustard, bunching onion, herb mix, and chive. So, thank you, Free Seed Project, for those great seeds. Let's do let's do the mustard. Now, one thing you want to do, which is really important, is always label. I don't have any labels right here, but well, let's remedy that, right? I can't say what to do and then not do it. Hold on. Okay, so I recently was messing around with the branding iron I have, and I made these stakes. So I've made 3 stakes. I need a 4th, but since these rows will be empty, I'll go ahead and make it later. 1 for bunching onion, 1 for mustard, and 1 for the herb mix. I'm gonna use 4 6-cell trays. Well, let's just do the 3. Chive will be later off camera. mustard, and herb mix. So a good way to do that is to start it here. I'm gonna put my planting stake to the right here of where I'm gonna plant, and then when it starts again, it's gonna be mustard, and it starts again, it'll be herb mix. Does that make sense? Hopefully so. So here's my herb mix. Tiny, tiny seeds in here. So what you do with tiny seeds is basically you're gonna scatter them in the trays. And then you're gonna lightly cover them with the seed starting mix. Just enough so that they're covered, they don't blow away. These aren't gonna be outside, they're gonna be indoors, so they're not likely to blow away. So I'm just gonna do this. I can see a little, and that's gonna produce a lot of seedlings, because that's a lot of seed in here. Okay, one more. I've got one more packet. I'm going to use just part of it and hold the rest in reserve, which means I'm using all of my herb mix that I have. And that's okay. Part of the fun about growing, I think, is just enjoying the journey, enjoying the experiment. Nature really does a lot of the work, so you can sit back and sort of be your human self and just get your intentions and your tools and your attention right, and nature should do the rest. So I have a tiny bit left over, not a lot, putting it back in my larger envelope. I may have a few things that I could test later on, but these were really tiny seeds. So again, I'm just gonna grab a little bit of my seed starting mix and like barely cover the seeds with this. Just like that. Another thing I can do is just sort of with my 2 fingers, just press lightly the soil on top so it kind of adheres or sticks to the seeds that are just below. If you got anything big like that, you can just toss that out. Those big sticks are kind of in the way. The reason why I'm pressing it down is because the seeds don't like to be kind of suspended in midair in a hole against the soil. Just like too much watering, too much air doesn't encourage the seeds to germinate and grow. So that's done. The herb mix is done. Next is the mustard. These seeds are a little bigger. And if you're ever wondering how deep to plant any type of seed, there's a general rule of thumb you can use. These are the mustard seeds. They're a little bigger, right? You can see them nice and dark, but they're not that big. I mean, basically it's probably a millimeter or less in size. The general rule of thumb is to plant the seed twice as deep as it is as the diameter of the seed, right? And you know, if you had something like barley or rice, of course that's a different type of shape, but or a bean, it's more of an oval, or you know, a different shape, oblong shape. You're going to use the width, not the length, but the width. So you're going to go twice as deep as the seed is wide. So this is, again, just a tiny seed. We're just going to barely sprinkle them on top. I'm going to be a little bit more judicious with the amount. I'm trying to do just maybe 1 or 3 or 4 in each. I can kind of feel that with my fingers and kind of count approximately how many are dropping in here. Because if I don't want to use all my mustard, in case I have trouble germinating these seeds. So that's good. That's one packet, and I got like almost halfway through. I'll use another packet and reserve this one for later in case I need to go back to it. Now these seeds are dark, so I can't really see them once I've planted them in this dark soil. I think I stopped here. Sometimes seeds become as a coated seed or a pelleted seed, and this isn't anything dangerous. It's just coated so that you can see the seed as you plant it. Some things like carrot come like that, especially if the seed type is one that you want to space well. So that's that. And I've got another like 1.5 packets of mustard. Nice. That goes back in my original bag. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a little bit of the seed starting mix and put it over the top. And so I'm kind of burying these maybe 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch over top. This isn't rocket science. It's harnessing the power of nature. So again, use your intention and your attention to do the best you can. I'm going to use my 2 fingers again and press lightly right over the top of each cell, just so they kind of snug in there in their little cell bed. And you notice I haven't watered these yet. That's because there's a special way to water seedlings that are going to be grown, and I'll show you that in a minute. All right, last bunch, right? The last bunch is bunching onions. I love bunching onions, and they grow pretty well in my garden bed, so I'm really excited to see this. I've got a lot of these seeds, again, really dark seeds, maybe about the size as a mustard seed, but also they're kind of a different shape. They're kind of triangular shape. They're not round. Okay, here we go. I'm going to pour 2 bags out in my hand, and whatever I have left over, I'll put back. Hopefully that works. Forget it. Okay, here we go. Again, I'm trying to just drop a few, right? 2 to 4 seeds in each. These will likely germinate together, of course, and we'll have to thin them. And thinning them helps the healthiest ones grow. You're kind of selecting for the healthiest ones, and to give them some space. So that was enough. That was enough for this whole section. And same thing, just kind of putting a little over the top just to cover them lightly. These seeds are super small, so they're not like a bean seed where we could actually better guesstimate the depth at which we planted them in the soil. Oops. Getting a little sloppy, trying to hurry. I'm losing daylight. 2 fingers over the top. And I'm pressing down quite lightly. I'm just sort of making sure those air pockets are closed up, and that the soil is touching and kind of holding the seed in its bed. Here's that last secret. So watering. I'm going to grab my watering can. I'm going to lift one of these up, because what I'm going to do is just pour directly in the bottom of the tray so that it fills it up evenly, just to about probably 1/2 inch. And through those holes at the bottom that I showed you of these 6-cell trays, the water will be wicked up. Yeah, that's it. I think I want to give you a close-up of that. So underneath there, you can see, sorry for the jerky camera, that's about right. So the next step for me is to get these babies under the grow lights and the warming mat in my area where I grow them indoors, and then repeat with the ones that I'm going to transplant, which are the dill and the kale, with another small tray. Now, one thing that you want to be kind of aware of is the dates or the number of days to germination for each one of these. So I'm going to go back and check that out, and I'll probably list that at the bottom of this video so you have some reference. But that just gives you some kind of way to expect when you can see your seedlings pop up. I've written the date on these popsicle sticks of when I planted them. So I'm going to be waiting from whatever period of time that these are going to typically pop up and check them. I'm also going to check to make sure that the water level is not too much, and that the seedlings are still getting, I'm going to test for damp soil, but that comes in another video. So let's take these over into the area where I'm going to turn on the mats and grow them. Here's my growing rack. I'm going to place these on this nice heating mat. It's a 10 by 20 heating mat. Just getting started up. And I have some of these grow lights up here. I've got 2 more terraces that I can use to grow more seedlings. But these are going to be happy here for now. And so you see the water is already drawn up a little bit in that tray. And I'm going to be watching them, especially because it'll become cooler at night in this room. Yet the mats will keep the soil warm, which is important for the germination to happen. We'll let those babies sit and we'll check on them in the morning. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's been a pleasure to show you just a little bit about seed starting indoors. And next time we'll direct seed some seeds right in the planter beds that I have. Thanks for watching.